Pirates and Porn Stars, written and narrated by Meg Langford. A fierce battle was being waged between ruthless pirates and the guards of the Duc d'Orléans. The Duke stood above it all, watching calmly, while his men surrounded him, fighting off those pirates who were trying to get to the Duke. One of the pirates was forcing a young man to walk the plank. The handsome man stood with his hands tied behind his back, looking down in terror at the shark-infested waters. One pirate poked him with a sword, forcing him even closer to the edge. The pirate laughed wickedly. "Any final words, my boy?" Michael shouted to the heavens, "Annie, wherever you are, I love you." The pirate nudged him with the sword as more sharks gathered. "Well, are you going or not?" Michael tried to bluster, but his terror showed through. "I'm afraid." The pirate rolled his eyes. "Oh, come on, stop whining. It will be fun." Michael did a double take. "What?" And suddenly, we are in a middle-class living room. Steve, Mike's best friend, was staring at Mike quizzically. I said it will be fun. God, you're in a fog tonight. You've got to go to the party, Mikey. Everyone's going, and if you don't go, Max is sure to notice and take it personally. Mike was now sitting on an ordinary sofa in ordinary clothes, having an ordinary conversation with Steve and Beth, who had asked him over for an ordinary dinner. Beth was pouring coffee all around. "Mike, you can't keep living like a hermit." Steve eyeballed his friend. "Have you had a single date since Tammy moved out?" "Yes, I've dated, if it's any of your business." Beth sat down next to Mike, smiling sympathetically. "We're just trying to help, Mike. I don't understand why you two broke up in the first place. She's such a nice girl." "Yeah," said Steve, "but see, honey, she's not the girl." "Stay out of it," mouthed Mike, but Steve did not stop. "Beth, hon, I'll tell you a little secret about our boy here. All his life, Mike has been looking for the perfect woman, which is odd because he's so far from perfect himself." Mike rolled his eyes. "Steve, you don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, yes, I do. Beth, it's an obsession with him, a quest. So, having searched the corners of the globe and not found the perfect woman—" Beth smiled and patted her husband's hand. "Honey, the globe doesn't have corners." But Steve was on a roll. "Mike here has decided to create the perfect girl on paper, kind of a Dr. Frankenstein with a word processor. Figures if he can't get laid, he can at least get good plot." Beth shushed her husband. "Shh, Steve, the kids." Standing in the doorway were their two children, Katie and Kevin. Steve smiled at his kidlets. "You guys still up? Come on, you two, into bed." Little Katie helped herself to some dessert. "But this is a special occasion. You should let us stay up and connect with your guests. Can we have some coffee?" Steve stared at his child, then looked at Mike. "You hear the way she talks? Absolutely not, smart mouth. Go to bed." Mike jumped up. "How about a bedtime story?" But little Kevin was not enthused. "Oh, God, please." Katie rolled her eyes. "Kevin, I suppose we don't have much say in the matter." Down in the children's bedroom, Katie snuggled up listening to Mike's story, but Kevin was not paying attention. He was playing with a computer game, making wild, futuristic war noises as Mike tried to tell his fairy tale. Steve looked on, grinning, as Mike started in. "Okay, kids, once upon a time—" But Katie cut in before Mike even started. "Hey, you can't start a story with once upon a time anymore. It means it's going to be boring." Mike took it personally. "That's not fair. You kids haven't even heard it yet." "It means it's going to be like one of those stupid Mother Goose stories or fairy tales or some other boring crap." Mike looked at Steve, who was standing in the doorway smirking. "Steve, you allow him to talk like that?" Beth doesn't want their freedom of expression impaired." "Yeah, well, Beth is a nut. You kids want to hear the story or not?" "Okay, once upon a—" No, scratch that. Many moons ago, in jolly old England, before the days of female prime ministers and IRA street violence and terrorist bombings— Kevin perked up. "Hey, this is going to be good after all." And so Mike continued. There lived a beautiful young maid who was the daughter of a tailor. She spent her days making pretty flowers grow, spinning wool, baking fresh bread. "Oh, cripes, it's getting boring again." "Hold your water," barked Mike. Anyway, she spent her nights dreaming of the day that she would meet a handsome prince. "Barf-a-ram, Dad, can we watch X-Files?" "Listen to this, Steve. I'm pouring out my soul, and they want government conspiracy sci-fi." Steve shrugged. "Yeah, kids, you can watch X-Files." Mike sighed, gave up, and stood up. "Steve, you're objective. Was it really boring?" "You want an honest answer?" "No." "Okay, then I loved it. Okay, kids, X-Files, 1 hour." Mike followed Steve into the living room. "I don't get it, Steve. What am I doing wrong? Why don't people like my stories?" Steve was helping his wife clean plates. "Don't be so hard on yourself, Mikey. You're a fine journalist." "I don't want to be a journalist. I want to make up stories, not just report them." "Hey, a lot of journalists make up stories." Beth smiled sympathetically. "What are you working on now, Mike?" "Oh, it's great, Beth. It's a romance. It's set 300 years ago, and it's got it all. Damsel in distress, a wicked duke, pirates." "Ooh, pirates. Tell me more." "Beth, you're going to get him started again." Beth and Mike settled down with coffee and dessert. Steve hid in the kitchen, preferring the greasy dishes to Mike's story. He could hear Mike droning on in the next room. But Steve had to admit this much. Mike's heart was in it. Okay. Long ago there lived a beautiful young girl who was very beautiful. Her mother died when she was young, so she lived with her father. Now, he was not a wealthy man, merely a fabric merchant and tailored to the king, and while he put on grand airs, bless his heart, fact is he was just another salesman hustling his goods. Are you with me so far, Beth? But the tailor's one comfort, his pride and joy, the light of his life, was his daughter Anne. Beth watched Mike drift off. She knew about these artistic types. She could tell he was listening to his muse. As are you. And now, dear listeners, imagine a field of wildflowers, a glorious spring day. As he spoke, Michael, could see it as clearly as if he were standing right in the middle of that field, as can you. Child of 9, with long dark hair and big brown eyes, gallops through the field on a pony. She stops the pony, jumps off, and begins gathering armfuls of wildflowers. "Oh, I like it already," said Beth. "It's very visual. The story—" "Shh! Don't interrupt!" snapped Michael. "I'm just getting warmed up. Okay, where was I? All right, the fair Anne. Anne was angelic and kind, precocious and witty, as full of promise as the first day of spring. Her father took care of her as best he could. His claim to fame was that he sewed the royal wardrobe, and when the king held court or paraded through the city on his white steed or marched into war, he did so in the finest silks and satins and brocades that Europe had to offer, brought to him by Anne's father." Anne's father is making big talk with people waiting for audience with the king. He is a Falstaffian man, loves to laugh and joke, except when someone snubs him, then he pouts. He carries bolts of fabric under his arm and tells the punchline of a vile joke to a cardinal from Rome. "And so then the wench sits up and says, 'Not one hair at a time, you won't.'" Father howls and gives the cardinal a jab in the ribs. The cardinal scowls. Yes, the tailor had grand dreams of hobnobbing with the wealthy, the titled, the royal, but his grandest dreams of all were for his daughter. Dusk. A sunset camouflages the autumn leaves that blend perfectly into the fiery blaze of dusk sky. Anne's father stands at the door of the cottage and calls to his daughter, who comes running through the fields and bounds into his arms. She gives him a kiss and a big bouquet of wildflowers. You see, Beth, Anne's father dreamed of her marrying a duke or an earl, perhaps even a prince, and going to live in a castle with ladies-in-waiting and a horse and carriage and jewels to adorn her and a prince to adore her. The tailor would live well himself, of course, being father of the princess. But meanwhile, back to the present reality. Steve, who was finding all this a little corny for his taste, had poured himself a double scotch to smooth out the rough edges as he towel-dried the spaghetti pot with a Barney the Dinosaur hand towel that Katie had made herself. But Beth, she was transfixed with Mike's story. And now, dear listeners, create a montage in your mind, that grand European tour you've always dreamed of. London, Paris, Rome, Florence, Chartres, Bath, Salzburg, Toledo, Capri, St. Petersburg, Prague, Venice, Holland, the Côte d'Azur, the Italian Alps, the Swiss Alps, and the white cliffs of Dover. And as we change the slides in the stereopticon of our minds, we also see Anne growing from a child of 9 to a young woman of 16, as she and her father travel the continent buying silks and satins and velvets from exotic Portugal. She had not exactly seen these places in style, though, said Michael, spiking his coffee with a touch of Kahlua, because her father was a poor man and could only afford cheap taverns, third-rate inns, and the company of, well, ne'er-do-wells and scoundrels. A humble tavern, a starry, windy night. Anne's father drinks and gambles with assorted flotsam who drink, belch, tell raunchy stories, and fight over their winnings and losses, while little Anne tucks herself away in the loft like a little mouse. She stares out the window at the full moon, fat and yellow as a wheel of Leicester cheddar. She's waiting for something, or someone. Beth looked at Steve and winked as Mike rhapsodized. And as he did, Mike went over, turned out the glaring fluorescent light, preferring instead the 2 remaining candles burning. They seemed to improve the atmosphere, to set the mood. The outskirts of London, Hampstead Heath, their humble cottage a dark and stormy night. Thunder and lightning. A very soggy but very handsome young man emerges as if by magic from the dark woods and trudges up to their doorway. Okay, then it happened, Beth. One night, a knock on the door. A young man asking the tailor if he needed the services of an honest stable boy. Anne's father took a fancy to the idea of having his own servant and hired him on the spot. And though he couldn't pay much, he promised warm food, a place to sleep, and kind treatment. Well, you know what's coming. That's when Anne came down from her room, and when she and the boy saw each other, they could not take their eyes off each other. Well, the tailor could have said the job included worms for dinner, sleeping in dung, and beatings at night. Wouldn't have mattered. Michael decided at that moment he'd do anything to be near this fair maid, and so it began. The storm is still raging as Michael makes his bed in the hayloft up in the leaky barn. He hears the stable door open and looks up. It is Anne with his dinner. So anyway, Beth, while Anne was a sweet thing, I gotta tell you, she was not shy. She'd been raised watching barmaids flirt with drunken gamblers, and she'd seen many things in taverns from Glasgow to Capri. And she knew she wanted Michael the first moment she saw him. She knew it was him that she'd been dreaming of all those nights she stared at the moon. And she made up her mind that he would be hers. And she started by bringing him room service. Anne climbs the stairs, juggling a bottle of wine, cheese, bread, and a lantern. Wordlessly, Michael takes the wine, gulps, hands it to her. She drinks. He laughs. She wipes away a drizzle of burgundy that runs down her chin. They kiss shyly. And as they do, Anne accidentally kicks over the lantern. A small fire erupts, and she screams as they beat it out with his blanket. They look at each other, then laugh. It is pitch black, except for the moonlight filtering through the window. They kiss passionately. The phone rings. What? The present. It is the phone in the present, shaped like R2-D2 on the end table. Mike jumped across 3 centuries, no less. Steve grabbed the receiver, listened. Beth and Mike waited to see who it is. Steve put his hand over the phone. Oh, Mike, it's Tammy. Are you here for her? Mike, panicked and mouthed, "No." Tammy, yeah, Mike left. No, I don't know. I'm not his keeper. No, he wasn't here with another woman. Bye, Tammy. Beth smiled maternally at Mike as Steve hung up the phone. "Mike, she still obviously cares. I still don't understand why you two broke up. And she's such a sweet girl." "She's a piranha. Besides, she walked out on me." "That's because you're forever buried in your novel, buddy." "Oh, give me a break. It's the only part of my life I can control." "Well, Mike, what happened? With Anne and Michael, the story." But Steve nudged Beth. "Don't get him started again, hon. Mike, have you forgotten we're moving to a new office tomorrow?" And with these words, Steve put Mike's hat on his head and handed him his jacket. "I can't believe you're kicking me out, your best friend." Beth handed Mike a Tupperware container full of leftovers. "Thank you, Beth. Dinner was great, as usual," said Mike as Steve shut the front door on Mike, chuckling. Mike drove home through the rain, the wet mist making the neon lights a glaring rainbow, far too bright and brazen for Mike's mood. He drove too slowly. He always drove way under the speed limit, making other drivers crazy, lost as he was in his world of fantasies. He parked outside his apartment building, trudged up the stairs, and let himself in. His dog, Lancelot, came bounding up. Mike gave him a thorough scratching. "Hey, sport! Hey, Lancelot, you must be hungry, I bet." He trudged over to the pantry and looked. "Oh, no. I'm out of dog food." At these words, Lancelot stared at him woefully. Michael looked into his huge brown eyes, then looked at the Tupperware container of Beth's leftovers he was holding. Michael shrugged, snapped off the lid, and put it down for Lance. Then Mike flopped down on the sofa, brooding about his story, meditating about his muse. Dissolved to the past. A field of flowers, a glorious day. Michael and Anne gallop through a field. He stops the horse, they jump off and start gathering flowers. She makes a crown of flowers for both of them. And when she turns to put the crown on Michael, she sees that he has fallen asleep in the poppies. Suddenly, Michael woke up again, the Millennium Michael, that is, Mike. Lancelot had fallen asleep next to him. Mike sat up with a start and looked at the digital clock. 2 a.m. He rubbed his eyes, got off the sofa, and yawned, not noticing that as he did so, he knocked the crown of poppy flowers from his head onto the carpet. Mike trudged through the dark living room to his desk where the computer was still on, and he settled in to work. He didn't notice Lancelot sniffing at the crown of poppies. Mike stared at the computer, but he did not see the glow of the blue-gray screen. Instead, he saw shadows of the distant past. He muttered under his breath as he typed. Okay. Months went by. Anne and Michael secretly in love. Anne's father still harbored fantasies of her marrying wealth or royalty, so she never let her father suspect. But our lovers spent every moment they could together. They... Mike stopped clicking, made raspberry sounds as he stared at the screen, a wave of writer's block washing over him. Love montage. Well, how the heck do I know what people in love did? Back then, that is. See, you got no movies, no restaurants, no video arcades, no miniature golf, no bowling. Ugh. Mike emitted an exasperated snort and resorted to longhand. Sometimes that worked. Love montage. Anne reads love poetry to Michael under a tree. They pick berries together, feeding each other as they do. Michael comes up behind Anne while she is cooking in her cottage kitchen and kisses her. Oh, nice alliteration. Kisses her in the cottage kitchen. She turns to offer him a bite of the beef stew, that is, just as her father comes into the room. He has brought a pudgy but prosperous merchant home, and let's see, the merchant, leers at Anne as Michael watches jealously. Later, Michael serves food as Father, Anne, and the merchant sit down to feast. Cut to Hayloft. Hayloft, yes. Michael holds Anne and stares at how beautiful she is, lit only by the light of the lamp. Mike leaned back and stared at the computer, sipping coffee from his Flintstones mug. Dialogue. Okay, I need some dialogue here. Anne and Michael are tucked away in their place, the hayloft in the barn. Michael watches her munching a turkey leg, beaming. Anne, Lammas tide is coming up. It will be 1 year since the day I came seeking work. 1 year since the day I first laid eyes on you and decided to make you my own. No, it is I who set my cap for you. I want a whole day with you, Anne. Not a few stolen minutes, a whole day to look at you and smell your hair and kiss you. Suddenly, they heard the stable door open and her father comes in, muttering. They freeze. They watch him look around for something, then stumble out again. Michael looks at Anne. You see, always hushing ourselves and stopping ourselves. I want a whole day with my Anne. Then you shall have it. Anne and Michael gallop through the woods. He urges the horse on, going faster and faster. Finally, he stops the horse. Michael has a strange look on his face, but Anne looks almost afraid of him. Why did we gallop so fast? You acted as though you were possessed. Oh, Annie, I wanted to get away from everything as fast as we could. You're strange today, Michael, and we've never been this deep into the woods. Where are we going? I don't know. Hold on tight. And he urges the horse faster and faster. Michael, please slow down. The horse jumps to cross a fallen tree. He clears it, but both of them go tumbling off. Anne jumps up unhurt and begins brushing herself off. There. You see what you have done? Are you hurt, my love? Michael, take me home. You're frightening me. Why won't you marry me? So that's what this is about. I told you. Father, I know, wants you to marry a prince, but sooner or later you're going to have to tell him who you really love. It's going to break his heart. And you are going to break mine if you don't marry me. Michael, we had better get back. It will be dark soon. Oh, so that's it. I'm amusing enough until someone better comes along. You have no intention of marrying me. Oh, when you act like this, no, I do not. Frustrated, Michael takes her and gives her a deep kiss, when suddenly the silence is broken by a cackling laugh. Startled, Michael and Anne glance around. Sitting on a tree stump is an ancient woman, howling with laughter and slapping her thigh. What's it going to be? What's it going to be? Love him forever or riches and royalty? Michael grabs the horse's reins and gestures to Anne. Annie, you're right. I think we better go now. Oh, you'll never get out of this forest now, not as deep in as you two are. Nightfall coming soon. Perhaps if you could show us the way, old woman. Oh, perhaps if I could show you. I could show you a great many things, but would you be willing to look? Would you be willing to see? Michael, she's mad. She frightens me. Let's run. Mad, am I? You adore him, yet you dream of living in a castle with a rich old fart you don't love. Who's mad? You want me to show you the way? Come with me. She hobbles away. Reluctantly, they follow. They see a hut in the distance. She gestures for them to enter. They duck to get in the very low door. Inside the hut are jars, bottles, and tins, all filled with strange things, and hanging from the low rafters, strange herbs and plants hanging to dry. This will take me just a minute. She takes powder from a tin, liquid from a bottle, crumbles some herbs. Anne and Michael watch, fascinated in spite of their fright. She hobbles outside again. They follow. She goes to their horse and rubs the mixture on his leg. She mutters some mysterious words in the horse's ear. There, that should about do it. She slaps the horse on the rump, and he trots around, his leg healed. Michael and Anne stare in amazement. That's a miracle. Who are you?
What in blazes does that matter? Do not change the subject. Are you going to marry him, yes or no?
Well, I can't. That is, I need to...
One word! One word! Well, I'm waiting.
Michael then turns to watch Anne's reaction.
Are you going to marry him?
And a short while later, Anne and Michael find themselves standing up in front of the old woman in mock ceremony. She holds a book with yellowed pages, but it is not a Bible. Anne wears a moth-eaten veil and holds a bouquet of wildflowers. The old woman wears a crazed smile.
Let the marriage ceremony begin, yes?
Yes, let it begin, says Michael, and Anne just nods nervously. The old woman raises one hand, chanting,
Inasmuch as Michael and Anne have declared their love for each other, and have spent 1 year together, and desire each other, and because there's no one here to interfere or protest, let us betroth them here together once and for all, and be done with it. Wonderful.
Anne and Michael look at each other and giggle.
And in spite of the fact that they think I'm mad, and in spite of the fact that her father wishes her to marry rich, let them be joined in marriage from this day forth as man and wife, bride and groom, lover and lover, in front of God and nature and myself as witnesses. I declare this marriage done and sealed, and a good thing for all. Michael, do you love the girl?
Eternally.
Anne, do you love the boy?
With all my heart and soul. The old woman cackles.
Then it is done!
Is that it? Michael and Anne both asked at the same time.
What do you mean, is that it? What did you expect, St. Patty's Cathedral? You're married. It's over. It's done.
Well, of course it's not a legal marriage, not officially.
Official? Is the sun coming up in the morning official? Are the first buds of spring official? Is the rain legal, or the rainbows, or the moonlight, or the rhythm of the tides?
We see your point, old woman. And suddenly the old woman turns and hobbles into the dark woods.
But you two should be alone.
Wait, yelps Michael. He starts to follow her, but she has disappeared into the darkness. Anne squints into the deep woods. Michael, where did she go? Old woman! I thought the hut was through there, but it's gone too. It's the darkness. It has us all turned around. Michael smiles and takes Anne in his arms. At least I finally have you alone, my wife. What do you want from me, Michael? I want to sleep for a really long time. Anne stops and stares at him, mightily offended. Sleep? At a moment like this? But it is our honeymoon. Michael yawns hugely. I'm just so tired I could sleep for a year. And we dissolve back to the present. Mike was sound asleep, slumped on the computer, snoring. The clock read 4:30 a.m. Lancelot snoozed on the floor beside him, snoring too, in harmony. Dissolved to 8 a.m. The alarm went off. Mike sat up and stared groggily at the computer screen. It was still on, when suddenly he grabbed the clock. Oh, I overslept. Dang nubbit. 12 minutes later, Mike jogged to the door, late, still half asleep. Lancelot looked up mournfully. Mike grabbed the leash. Okay, boy, but let's make it a fast one. At 9:15, Mike dashed into the newspaper building, jostling by people who had remembered to set their alarms and were not nearly in such a rush. Mike flew by Hank, the security guard, not bothering to greet him. Hank chuckled as he watched Mike flurry by. Hi, Mike. Oh, how are you? Oh, I'm fine. Thanks for asking. Hank chuckled to himself, then went back to reading his National Geographic and popping donuts. Crazy writers. 22 floors upward, the elevator doors opened, and Mike ran in late, groping his way to the coffee machine. It was empty. Steve sauntered up, carrying a jumbo thermal mug. He was smirking. He had his coffee. "Oversleep again, Mikey? I bet I know what you were doing last night." "I was making love to a beautiful woman, if you must know." "On paper, maybe. You were writing more of that tripe. Oh, I saw the look in your eye when you left last night. When last we met, our two lovers were in deep—" "Steve, don't you have a news story to write?" "No, but you do. Howard wanted to see you in his office half-hour ago. I hear it's something big." Mike hurried into his boss's office, even more flustered when he saw the owner of the newspaper, wealthy publisher Maximilian Bouchard, talking to Howard, the editor. Mike straightened his stained tie and tripped over words as he shook hands with a big cheese. "Mr. Bouchard, to what do we owe the honor?" "Mr. McClure, Buzz, isn't it?" "Yes, sir, that's my byline, but my friends call me Mike." "Well, all ready for the move to my new building, Buzz?" "Yes, sir, all packed." Maximilian Bouchard was all puffed up with himself. "You know, with that new health club in the basement, it's bringing group insurance rates down 17%. "That's fabulous, sir. And I will be seeing you at my big party to officially celebrate the opening of the building." "Well, I don't know. It's a costume party. You may not recognize me." Max missed Mike's joke. "Oh, by the way, Buzz, I enjoyed that story you did on the homeless." "Sir, I didn't write that. Steve Hamilton wrote that." "Oh, well, I still liked it. Gentlemen, I'm off. Goodbye, all." Max took his expensive cashmere coat and breezed out. Howard, an editor from the old school, turned his attention back to business as usual. Insurance discounts, health food restaurants, a lot of nonsense. I hate that new glass building. Non-smoking floors, reporters using a Nautilus. Hell, when I was a reporter, no one respected you unless you smoked 2 packs a day. Now they give you a frickin' ticket if you light up in the John. And why the hell are you late anyway?" Mike fumbled for an excuse. Never mind. You always lie to me anyway. Mike, I want you to interview Silas Krenshaw." "What? You want me to interview Silas Krenshaw? He's one of the greatest writers alive." "Some would say the greatest living writer." "Oh, man, I love his stuff, sir. I remember summers in New Orleans visiting Grandma. Her maid used to buy all of Crenshaw's books, and she'd give 'em to me when she was done. I used to sit in that treehouse and read 'em cover to cover, and then when I was done, I'd start all over again. I couldn't get enough of 'em." Howard watched Mike effuse, then picked up one of Silas's books and stared at the dog-eared cover. "We've been trying to get an interview with him forever. He's always nixed us. Then, out of the blue, he finally says yes. And I get the interview? I can't get over it. What, haven't they shut any restaurants down this week? No zoo animals having birthdays? Didn't anybody die, Howard? Krenshaw may if you don't hustle. You know, he's going to be 82 next month, so get to it." "Oh, sir, I want to thank you. I know you only gave me this job because of my dad." "Nonsense. You're a good reporter, Buzz. It's just unsettling to have a man working for you who'd always rather be somewhere else, writing something else." "I'm going to write the best interview for you ever." "Mike, hurry. 81 years old, the clock is ticking." Mike's car crawled down a dirt road that led to a dilapidated cabin. He got out, went to the door, and knocked. A voice inside beckoned him to enter. Mike walked in, then froze. These surroundings were eerily familiar. Dim light, plants everywhere, tins and jars filled with odd things, herbs hung to dry from the rafters. In the shadows sat an old man in a rocking chair holding a chipped cup and a cookie. Mike stared. He looked curiously like the old woman from Mike's story. Little animals, chipmunks, squirrels, a raccoon, were inside the cabin, darting about. There was an old TV in the corner, and a parrot was perched on the elaborate coat-hanger antenna. "Sit down. Make yourself at home." This from Silas, not the parrot. Hello, sir. I'm Buzz McClure. It's an honor to meet you.
Didn't I say sit? My goodness, you're not only white, you're mighty tall. Now sit down and ask what you want to ask.
Mike sat down, ruffled, not sure what to make of this guy. Sir, I just want to say what a thrill it is to finally meet you. Your writing made me want to be a writer. I think you're the greatest writer alive. But Silas was critically examining his cookie.
These cherry foldovers my sister brings always make me fart. Hey, you want some brandy?
No, thank you, sir.
Why the hell not?
Well, all right, just a drop.
Over there in the jug. Made it myself from blackberries. Can't get that kind of thing in stores.
The parrot started squawking.
Makes me fart! Makes me fart!
Silas poured them brandy, and then, after Silas had taken a sip, Mike took one. Ooh, good stuff. He looked at Silas. You know, I tried to visit you when you first moved here, sir, but...
What are you, a Girl Scout? Take a real drink, boy.
Mike obeyed. Silas was odd and intimidating. A chipmunk ran up the old man's arm and started nibbling the cookie, and Silas just ignored it. As I was saying, sir, I came looking for you when you moved here, but I could never find the place. But it's strange, 'cause I could have sworn that I drove right by here. Silas watched Mike sip the blackberry brandy.
Lots of things are strange, aren't they, boy?
I'll tell you what else is strange, sir, this blackberry brandy. My grandmother used to hide this exact stuff in her house. I mean, she couldn't drink, being a Southern belle, you know, full of propriety and pretense. So when she did drink it, she said it was for medicinal purposes. It was in that house those summers reading your books that I got it into my head I was going to be a writer. I mean, you made everything so real. How did you do that? Silas started to reply, but he could see that Mike wanted to keep talking, and so Silas let him. Gee, it was all so vivid. Those slave escapes you wrote about. I mean, I could feel the swamp muck washing around my thighs, and I could smell the sweat and the fear, and I could hear the yelping of the dogs coming after me. Oh, your stuff's incredible. Then Mike remembered himself and put down the cup. But what in blazes am I doing? This is supposed to be an interview. Silas, tell us why you came up here after living your whole life in the bayou.
Well, Mike, it was time to get out of the South. For a while, South gave me life. It's where I was born, where I met my beloved wife, had my sons, learned to write stories. But then it was the place where I buried my wife and my boys. South became more about death than about life for me. Yeah, I remember that. I mean, I wasn't born yet when they killed your family in that fire, but Dad had clippings from newspapers about that fire and the Klan and the trial, and then that's how Burning Swamp came to be written. I like the way you interview me, son. You do all the work. And in the blink of an eye, it was dusk outside. Mike and Silas had been talking for some time, feeling jolly. Mike was oblivious of the raccoon, who jumped up on a tattered chair and studied him. But how do you do it, Silas? You still haven't told me. Do what?
Write those incredible stories. I mean, I work so hard. I've been writing since I was 10. I go to seminars and I read a lot, and I do all the things they tell you to do. Silas leaned his head back and cackled a long, bizarre laugh. No, I'm serious, Silas. I research my characters and I analyze their motivations and then I put it down on 3x5 cards. That's your mistake, my boy. 3x5 cards. You gotta give all that up. Forget controlling it from the outside. Let it get inside you, in your brain, in your belly, in your loins and your heart and your hands. Just let go. Oh, you're so white. I bet you even listen to that New Age crap. Mike said nothing. Silas grinned. Mike, I'll tell you a story. 1943, making love to my wife. But my heart wasn't in it. Oh, other parts of my body was, but my soul someplace else. I was thinking about a heroine from my novel. She was helping these slaves escape north. Oh, she was fine. Ebony skin, soft, juicy, and eyes like fire in a swamp. I loved her so. Her name was Rachel. Anyway, one night I'm putting the boots to my wife, Humani, and just as that was about to happen, I called out, "Rachel!" Well, my wife packed, left that night, didn't come back for a whole year. You're joking. No, I swear in front of sweet Jesus. And did the paper say that those bastards that killed my wife and sons also castrated me? Mike drew back in mute horror. Got me when I was coming out of a bar. Pinned me against a red pickup and did it. I'll never forget. Shaking the Blues Away was playing on the radio. Then they laughed and they just got in the truck and drove off. I nearly bled to death before someone found me. An owl, up at this moment as still as a stuffed bird, suddenly swooped past them and pounced on a mouse scurrying across the floor. It squirmed in his beak. Boy, the whole thing is you can't have the control over your work. Long as you got your sanity, you ain't got nothing. If you stay on the edge, you're miserable all the time. But when you jump, that's when it gets fine. Oh, that's the magic of it. That's the living hell of it. Silas stared into space and gesticulated like a tent preacher. It's when the characters control you, savvy? When you've lost your mind to the story. When the tale is better than your own life. That's when the characters come alive. Silas slumped in his chair, drained. My sister's bringing hamburger helper for dinner, the tuna kind. You want to stay? Mike rose, transported by the spell. No, sir, I have something urgent I need to do. Mike stopped at the door and turned to Silas. By the way, is that true what they did to you? The Hell no. Made it up. See if you were listening. Trust me, Mr. Buckaroo is alive and kicking. Stiff competition. But it was a great story, you see. And you believed it. And that's all that matters on my planet, on Silas's planet. Mike stared at him. The parrot blurted out, Mr. Buckaroo! Mr. Buckaroo! Mike hurried into his apartment in a daze and hugged Lancelot, and then he remembered. I knew there was something I forgot. Oh, Lancelot, don't look at me like that. Mike whipped open the cupboard and spied a box of Lucky Charms. Hey, the leprechaun. See, that's perfect. Right, boy? Your mother was an Irish setter. But Lancelot was not convinced. He stared at his master. Mike poured the charms in Lancelot's dog bowl, splashed them with milk, and put it on the floor. Lancelot tried it, then wolfed it down happily, milk on his whiskers. Then, without wasting another minute, Mike hurried to his computer and started to bang away. The Journey North. Silas Krenshaw, celebrated author of 23 novels and more than 50 short stories, will celebrate his 82nd birthday. Mike stopped typing. He scowled and erased everything. He tried again. The Journey North. Silas Crenshaw's father escaped north out of slavery over a century ago, but it took his son more than... Again, Mike deleted it. He remembered the image of Silas grinning and rambling and cackling. Let it inside you. In your brain, your belly, your loins, your heart, your hands. Let go, boy. You're so white. Mike chuckled. He sighed and tried again. The Journey North. How does one describe the ancient, wizened, brilliant author of more than... Again Mike halted, cursed, and pounded the desk. Silas's voice returned. If you stay on that razor's edge, boy, you're miserable all the time. But when you jump, that's when it gets good. That's the magic of it. And then Mike grinned. He ejected the disc, slipped in his other story disc, and watched as his love story booted up on the screen. Oh, this is better already. Dissolved to the past, The Woods Night. Mike and Anne have just been married in that crazy ceremony by that old, lovable, lunatic woman. And in the blink of an eye, she's disappeared into the darkness. Anne squints in the deep woods. Where did she go? Old woman! Michael, she's gone. I thought the hut was through there. It's gone too. It's the darkness. It has us all turned around. Michael smiles and takes Anne in his arms. At least I finally have you alone, my wife. Anne smiles coyly. What do you want, Michael? I want to sleep for a long time. You wish to sleep at a time like this? It is our honeymoon. But Michael just yawns hugely. I am so tired I could sleep for a year. Meanwhile, back in the present, Mike chuckled, remembering how he'd fallen asleep on his computer keyboard the night before writing that very dialogue. Then he deleted it, started again. The Past the Woods Night. Anne smiles coyly and puts her arms around Michael. What do you want, Michael? I want us to be one, my love, not just in front of God or some silly old woman, but in front of the world. Come with me, Anne, and let us tell your father together. Yes, Michael, I am, after all, your beloved wife. Mike scowled at the screen. The dialogue was awful, and he knew it. He took a deep breath, erased it, and began again. Dissolved to the Past, the Woods, Night. Anne smiles coyly, walks up to Michael, and puts her arms around him. What do you want, Michael? But, my love, I have what I want. I want you. Yet even in having you, still I desire you. Oh, let us celebrate. Let us sing to the moon, and dance, and... Okay. Mike deleted that bit of tripe, too. He stormed to the kitchen, cussing. Lancelot cowered, sensing the tension. Mike got out his lucky Flintstone tumbler and a bottle of scotch and poured. He drank, turned on the stereo, and flipped the dial around. Heavy metal. Bach. Jazz. A radio talk show. He turned it off, but the silence was the most maddening of all. Silas's voice was still haunting him. Mike finished the drink, sat on the sofa, and cried. An hour later, Mike was plastered, singing an Irish love ballad. He stumbled into bed, the light of the computer on his face. He muttered strange things about Silas and Michael. A drunken grin crawled over his mouth as he fell into a deep, relatively enchanted sleep and dreamed of the past, the dark woods. Oh, yes, this is much better already. This is much better. The black forest is lit by a bright moon. Michael, holding a sheepskin bag of wine, is singing and drinking. Anne follows, singing too. Michael trips in the stream and yelps, the cold water arousing him. Anne laughs. Fool! Drunk! Husband! Michael stares at Anne lustily, then pulls her down in the water with him. She screams at the cold water, then kisses him hungrily. Tell me, my love, what do you want? I want you as my wife, completely. But I'm only your wife in play. We shall see. Suddenly Michael jumps out of the water and disappears into the woods. Anne jumps up. Michael! Where are you, Michael? I'm afraid. Suddenly Michael runs back with armfuls of flowers and throws them on the ground. Then he walks up to Anne, sweeps her in his arms, and carries her to the bed of rose petals. He kisses her, puts her down gently, and lies down beside her. Back in the present, Lancelot watches over his master as Mike, still clutching his lucky Flintstones tumbler, snoozes and dreams, and as he dreams, he smiles. The past. Michael pulls Anne close. He kisses her mouth, her cheek, her neck. He works his way down her body. She smiles shyly as he removes her clothes. Then he stares at how exquisite she is in the moonlight, the moonbeams shining in her hair and in her eyes. She pulls his shirt off, kissing his chest and losing control and giving herself over to her passion. As back in the present, Mike moans in his sleep, clutching his pillow. Lancelot, wakeful, glanced over at him concerned, then rolled his doggy eyes and rolled onto his back. The past, Anne and Michael make passionate love, and when it is over, they fall back onto the bed of rose petals, breathless, then turn to each other and smile. He cradles her in his arms, and they stare at the moon, blinking sleepily. The present, Mike's bedroom, dawn. Mike snored, a big smile on his face. He murmured, "Anne." And then finally, reluctantly, he opened one crusty eye and realized where he was. Oh, damn, it was only a dream. He sat up, then winced. A killer hangover was setting in. He yawned, then froze. A woman was lying next to him in bed. She slept on her stomach, her long dark hair rippling over her back. Mike's eyes bulged. "Geez, I must be still drunk." He reached out one hand and touched her, then pulled it away quickly. "God, she's real. Oh, wait. Did I go to a bar last night?" Curious, he touched her hair again. She slowly awakened and turned around, a big smile on her face. It was Anne! Mike screamed, "God, it's you!" Anne smiled dreamily. "Good morning, my love, my husband. I must still be asleep. Come kiss me." Mike was rubbing his eyes. "I got some bad liquor. I've heard about things like this." "Michael, why are you acting so strangely?" "Because you aren't supposed to be here, that's why. You're supposed to be in that word processor." Anne looked around. Then she screamed and jumped up, wrapping the sheet around her. Lancelot heard the loud voices and came running in, barking, adding to the pandemonium. Anne was trembling. "Where am I?" "You're in my bedroom, although how you got here I'm sure I don't know." Anne backed up, terrified. "Liar! You sleep in the bar, and I've been there 100 times. What place is this? Why did you bring me here?" "Me? I sure as heck didn't bring you here. In fact, you can't be here. It's impossible. You're a byte on a floppy disk." "I am what?" Mike grabbed the clock and winced when he saw the time. "Oh, no, I'm going to be late again." But Anne was clinging to Mike as he climbed out of bed. "Michael, I've never heard you talk this way. Please tell me where I am. I'm frightened." Mike was pulling his robe on, covering his nakedness, and staring at Anne in disbelief. "You're in my bedroom in the 20th century wearing my sheets, and I'll be damned if I know what you're doing here. I'm a writer, and frankly, not a very good one, and you're a heroine I created for a pulp novel." "Don't say such things, Michael. I am Anne, your only love, and I adore you, but you are talking like a madman." "Oh, I'm mad. I'll agree with that much. And, sweetheart, try to understand. You aren't real. I made you up. You're the product of too much scotch and a very erotic dream." "But, Michael, how can you say that I'm not real after last night?" "Hey, don't start about that. I need a very cold shower. The sooner I sober up, the sooner you'll vanish. Yeah." He stormed out of the bedroom, went into the bathroom, and slammed the door. Anne sat down on the bed and began sobbing. Mike could hear her sobbing through the bathroom door. "Anne, don't do this to me." But Anne only sobbed louder, staring in terror at the strange surroundings. She looked out the window, saw the long drop, and began screaming. Mike ran into the bedroom, and in spite of everything was moved by her terror. He took Anne in his arms. "Shh, honey, okay. It's only a view. You can't fall, see? It's glass. Come here." He put his arms around her. She sniffled, clutching him. Suddenly, Mike jumped up and pulled away. "I don't believe it. I'm comforting a fictional character. This is too weird. I'm out of here. Forget the shower." He threw on his clothes, grabbed his keys, and went for the front door. Anne jumped up, terrified, and followed him. "No, Michael, please don't leave me. I'm frightened." "Oh, yeah? Well, how the hell do you think I feel?" Michael ran out and slammed the door, his heart racing. Meanwhile, Anne stood in the apartment, sniffling, clutching the sheet around her. But then a look of determination came over her face. She wiped her eyes and looked around. She saw a calendar. October 1999. She stared at it, mystified. But how can this be? She went to the bookshelf and smiled when she saw something familiar. Holy Bible. She pulled it from the shelf, kissed it, and clutched it to her bosom. Then she saw a book, History of Western Civilization. She flipped through it, and as she saw pictures and descriptions of people, events, cities, inventions, some familiar, others foreign, she smiled, getting a sense of things. She read on, intrigued. Lancelot came up to her whimpering, and Anne gave him a friendly hug. Dogs, she understood. 20 minutes later, Mike flew into the newsroom and flew to his cubicle. He started to touch everything on his desk, trying to orient himself. This is my blotter, and this is my favorite coffee mug, and this is my Elvis candle from Graceland, and Steve was standing nearby, studying Mike. That's very good. You were able to name everything on your desk. Michael jumped, then smiled when he saw it was Steve. Oh, God, it's you. Well, who did you expect? Glinda the Good Witch? What the hell is wrong with you this morning? Nothing. In fact, I'm fine. Now. Steve looked at his friend, concerned. So, Mike, how'd the interview with Krenshaw go? And at that moment, a light bulb went on over Mike's head. Yes, he remembered how that crazy old fart had just winked wickedly and kept filling Mike's earthenware cup with blackberry brandy. Yes, said Mike, Silas Krenshaw, that damn homemade moonshine. That explains it. Mike sat down and sighed in relief. Oh, I feel better already. Oh, that's right, the Krenshaw interview. I'd better get cracking. I can't afford to screw this one up. Mike turned on his computer, chipper again, but Steve eyed him doubtfully. As meanwhile, back at Mike's apartment, Anne was still in Mike's bedroom, standing half-naked and very unsure of herself. She put on Mike's bathrobe. She sniffed it. It smelled like him. She smiled. And then she studied the computer, still on from Mike's all-night bout with it. She began to read, smiling hugely when she got to the description of their wedding. When she got done reading the passage on the screen, she saw a stack of printed-out pages next to the computer and began reading from Chapter 1. And, meanwhile, back at the newspaper office, Mike was sitting at his computer, putting the finishing touches on the Silas interview and sipping some good, strong, black coffee. He was smiling and whistling, sure that the apparition he'd seen in his bedroom was nothing more than part of a horrible hangover. But she was not. Anne had wandered into his kitchen. She touched the shiny appliances. She had never felt such smooth textures. She opened the refrigerator, staring in wonder at the shelves of food waiting to be pillaged. She saw a jar of peanut butter. It took some bit of experimenting to figure out about unscrewing jar lids. She stuck her finger in and sampled it, then smiled. She took another fingerful, then smacked as she learned that peanut butter sticks to the roof of your mouth. She explored further. Potato salad was good. The pickles fascinated her. Chutney was awful, and the food in the little white boxes with the wire handles was definitely interesting. A half an hour later, Anne was on the floor, surrounded by bags of chips, Oreos, leftover Popeye's chicken, a tin of Nestle's Quick, eggs, which were familiar and a great comfort, pretzels, milk bones. Oh, Lance was by her side the entire time, hoping for handouts. She tried a milk bone and made a face. Lancelot whined, so she gave it to him. She opened a container that said Ben and Jerry's and poked at it with her finger. It was cold and hard. She touched it with her tongue and smiled. She took a spoon and dug in. This poor little misplaced waif had discovered dessert. The day flew by, busy and exciting for both of our lovers. And by the time that the end of the workday had rolled around, Mike was sashaying his way home happily and vowing to imbibe less, a lot less. And definitely no more homemade moonshine from crazy old Coots ever again.